Free will means liberation from the bondage of the ego.
So, that's a quote from Andrew Vernon, and right away you can see it kind of flips our whole idea of free will completely upside down, doesn't it? I mean, what on earth is this bondage of the ego he's even talking about?
Okay, so let's break this down. On the one side, you've got the ego's point of view, right? The one we all know. It's this idea that free will is all about the freedom to do whatever I want, to make the world match my plans. But what Andrew Vernon is pointing to is something way deeper. He's saying true freedom, that's not about control at all. It's about finding harmony with what is, just as it is without that constant struggle. And the root of that whole struggle, it comes down to one big, powerful illusion. And that illusion has a name: doership. It's this really deep-seated feeling that there's a separate me in here, kind of like a little CEO sitting in your head, calling all the shots, being the independent doer of every action. And that very feeling, that sense of being a separate doer, that's the foundation, the bedrock of the ego's bondage.
So here's the real kicker. The liberation he's talking about, it isn't about this little doer finally winning and getting everything it wants. No, not at all. It's about seeing that the doer itself is just a thought. It's a mental concept. And when that sense of doership starts to dissolve, the whole question, that whole anxious debate in your head about do I or don't I have free will, it just disappears right along with it.
Okay, that all sounds pretty profound, right? But what does it actually do? How do we apply it in our real lives? Well, this idea of liberation from the ego has huge implications for 4 key areas: our personal growth, finding inner peace, actually achieving our goals, and of course, our spiritual growth. So let's dive in and break down each one.
All right, first up, personal growth. This is really about moving beyond just being reactive, like a puppet pulled by unconscious strings, and instead starting to act from a place of genuine clarity.
And this is where it gets super practical. Think about it. When you're not spending all your energy defending this fragile idea of me all the time, you can finally see your own patterns for what they are. You can literally catch yourself starting to replay that old, tired story and just drop it. You can notice that automatic impulse to people please even when it hurts you and choose differently. Or how about this one? When someone criticizes you, instead of that knee-jerk defensive wall shooting up, you can actually listen and see if there's maybe a nugget of truth in there. You start allowing life to guide you instead of trying to force every single thing to go your way.
Okay, so next up, let's talk about how all this leads directly to our second area, inner peace. We're talking about managing your day-to-day mental and emotional well-being.
And this slide, this is such a perfect illustration of the core shift. See, the ego completely fuses with the emotion. It says, I am afraid, or I am angry. That emotion becomes your entire identity in that moment. But when you see through the doer, you can take a step back and just observe, fear is happening. The emotion is just seen as an event, a temporary weather pattern passing through you, not the truth of who you are. And that tiny, tiny shift in language, it creates a huge amount of inner space.
Just try applying this to your day. When that feeling of anxiety bubbles up, what if, instead of fighting it, you just allowed the physical sensation to be there, without piling on the story of, oh no, I'm an anxious person? You'll find it moves through you so much faster. Or you're stuck in traffic, right? The rage isn't really about the cars. It's about the ego screaming, this shouldn't be happening to me. Take that me out of it, and you can just accept the situation and focus on your breath. You mess up at work, you correct the mistake, you take responsibility, and you move on, without that crippling shame that can follow you around for days.
Now, for our third area, achieving your goals. And I know this one can sound like a paradox. You'd think that letting go of the doer would make you passive, right? Like you just sit on the couch all day. But it's actually the complete opposite. It makes you more effective because you get rid of all that internal resistance. I mean, just think about how much energy we waste on the drama of it all. Will I succeed? What if I fail? All that worrying about protecting our pride. When that just falls away, all that's left is the energy to just do the work. You can make decisions based on reality, not on what you're afraid of or what you're hoping for. When you're in a negotiation, you can be objective instead of getting triggered. And this one is a game changer. When an idea or a project fails, you can pivot instantly. It's not, I failed, it's just, okay, that idea didn't work. What's next? The freedom and adaptability you gain are just incredible. And all of this naturally leads us to our fourth and deepest application, spiritual growth.
Because this is really the core realization that this whole inquiry into the doer is pointing us toward.
So what's the practice? Well, it's actually incredibly simple. It's just to start noticing in your own direct experience that the I you assume is running the show is just a thought. It's a thought that appears in your mind, just like a thought about what you're going to have for lunch. It's not some solid, permanent entity that's been there forever.
And you can play with this. You can test it out anytime. Next time you're walking, just notice. Walking is just happening. You don't need a little walker inside your skull commanding left foot, right foot. Or when you're washing dishes, just watch how your hands know exactly what to do without your mental supervision. You'll start to see that brilliant choices and answers just arise on their own, perfectly suited to the moment, without you having to have a big internal meeting about it. And gradually you start to sense this background, this quiet, aware stillness that's always here, and it's the space where all the thinking and doing and feeling is taking place.
So this really leaves us with one last really powerful question to sit with. What if that personal feeling of being the doer, that identity you've held on to so tightly your entire life, what if it really is just another thought passing through? What's left when you don't cling to it?
Well, Andrew Vernon's own teacher, Ranjit Maharaj, he put it about as bluntly as you can. He said, "I don't exist. That is the real free will." You see, the ultimate freedom isn't about the I finally getting everything it wants. The real freedom is freedom from the very idea of that I in the first place.